charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank
Okay,
you for
welcome
using
back.
Global Tel Link.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Are we still
We're
on?
gonna kind of shift a little bit. We talked
Right.
about emotions. We talked about loss, and so
Right.
I'm gonna. We had this is another part of the conversation we had, and we talked about misery or being miserable in prison or being or sometimes people, he asked me the question, why do people think that you're miserable in prison? My answer, if I can remember, was pretty much because on the outside we looking and thinking, well, you don't have any freedom, you're in there, that we hear about the riots, we hear about killings, we hear about the conditions, we hear about the food, and it's a controlled environment. And I know for a fact that when people come out of prison, some adapt very well, but some don't. So I just wanted,
Right.
we talked a little bit about this, so I just want to go into that and talk a little bit about, um, you were 17 when you went in. And people, I want you to remember, this is our whole goal, is to get these young men out of prison because they've been there 29 years, going on 30. That's enough. And all I can say, nobody died. It wasn't, and other people, have been in, did their time for similar things and gone about their business. But this is our goal, is to get them out of prison so they can start a normal life. Okay, so
Right.
you went in at 17 and you went into the prison setting with adults that had long-term sentences or, whatever. It was a variety of stuff going on. So, being in there now almost 30 years, and people are saying to you, like, you act like you miserable because you don't agree with certain
Right.
things. And we won't go into
Right.
details of all that. But it's like you, and
Right.
people are saying, well, you must be miserable because you're in prison, or you this or whatever. So tell me about how you have, first of all, you grew up in prison. So tell me how you have adapted to it, and tell me what your mindset is when it comes to people thinking you're miserable.
Great questions. Um, I think that people see people get out of prison just like you.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
The same way that you alluded to, there are a number of people that get out of prison, and there are some that because law-abiding citizens, pay their taxes, go to work, provide for themselves, responsible, and everything else. And then there are people that are just not able to adjust. And go back to the same life that got them to prison. I think that is what misery is. And I think people create their own misery. And people that have never been to prison, will have the tendency to see both sides. And of course, we discussed it at length on this podcast that we are always trained as human beings to focus on the negative aspect of anything. So, people don't really pay attention to, the success stories of people getting out of prison. It's always viewed as, there's always people always view the people that are always a part of the recidivism rate as the people that they can kind of make their argument on. So, of course, if there's businesses that we have, no matter how small or big they are, people will automatically go to that as a defense mechanism that, oh, you sound like you're miserable in prison. I'm miserable. And I don't think, my hunting devil would ever allow me to be miserable, calling her and talking to her on a regular basis without pointing these things out to me. But since we've been in touch, I haven't heard you once tell me that I sound miserable. But I hold your opinion and your values of the way that you view me in a way higher regards than anyone else, that don't understand what's going on. And of course, the failures that they see people have, getting out of prison, this is what they base their arguments on, for everybody that has been in prison. So that's not supposed to happen. And I think a big part of it is not understanding who they are as people, and, feeling miserable, some kind of mental or emotional prison that they're living in. And say, but I understand that you don't know what I know, and there are miserable people in prison, and you can, of course, point out the things the same way that you miserable people on the streets. Now, your cell on the streets is a whole lot bigger, so you're able to distance yourself from the people that is just we go in circles. So you want to be around people that are miserable, happy, and receptive to rehabilitation and things like that, and people are going to advancing themselves to further their into going to the streets and being around family and friends that love them the most in the world. But of course, there's also people that's in prison that's miserable, that are content with being in prison and doing the everyday function of what prison is. So there's a lot more people that's miserable on the streets rather than in prison, because of course society is a whole lot bigger than million people in America, and only 3 million of those 400 million are in prison. So of course, being in society and physically and mentally free, you're going to be around a whole lot more miserable people than I would be in prison.
Okay, tell me this. That are in prison, and I get it. Tell me what makes them miserable. Why are they miserable? Why do you see them as being miserable?
Well, I think one of the important things to point out is if people are miserable, a lot of them want to admit it. And of course, in clinical terms, these are the people that are miserable that haven't been diagnosed with anything. So, people don't go to therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists to kind of pinpoint the reason that they feel the way that they feel. And of course, there's other people that will do the work to come up out of the mental and emotional ruts that they feel that they're in. But that's on the streets of tried to the people in prison. You got people that, what we call set in their own ways. That's a misery. Especially if you're doing the things that you do that affects other people, is what creates the misery. And of course, they always say misery what? Loves company. So, people don't mind, bringing you into their mental and emotional ruts, just to feel satisfied. And some people know exactly what they're doing and have an insatiable appetite for bringing other people into their own misery. So, there's a lot of different reasons why people are miserable, but there's very few solutions and there's very few.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
There's very few awarenesses on, people being able to kind of pinpoint those things. And if I was miserable, of course, I'll point those things out, and I'm pretty sure you would as well. But there's a lot of different reasons people are miserable. You can't have people in their right mind going to an elementary school and kill 19 children. You can't have people in their right minds that go to a church and kill 9 people. You can't have people in their right minds that go to the synagogue and kill 11 people. So of course, it's something that's going on in their mind and in their psyche that, loving people, what they're supposed to be loving, you other human beings. So there's something that's lacking there, and a lot of people don't get those things diagnosed, and the results, of course, are the loss of life.
Right. I agree. So what I'm saying is, I can look at the people in prison and say, oh, it's obvious why you should be miserable
Right.
or could be miserable, or you would take advantage of programs or whatever they may have. Let me go back and say there is no prison reform. That does not exist. I know they put it out there like it does, but it really don't. It don't exist. So so you can do a lot of things. You can just I always look at you and always amazed about how you have dealt with these 29 years and how you have kept your right mind and how you have educated yourself. You have read a lot of books and you considered a lot of things and what have you to keep sanity, to keep sane. Because prison, some people can't take it and they go under in it. But it's the same way, it's the same kind of stuff, like you were just saying, that happens in society. When you look at society,
Absolutely.
you can't really always pinpoint why people are not happy or why they're miserable or whatever. But you can look at society and look at the systems that they have built, keeping people in poverty, keeps people miserable. I remember saying when they first started building projects, and she said people were so excited about these new apartment complexes that were coming up and that they were brand new. The rent was going to be reduced. They had little playground areas. They had all this stuff. It made it seem, it had a shine about it. And it made it seem like this is the greatest thing, especially for people of color. She said it wasn't long
Right.
before you realized, after a couple of years, she said after you realized that it wasn't a good thing at all. Because one of the criteria of being in there, it was that the father couldn't be in there. It was for mothers with children, but not the dad. So
Right.
right there, you're separating the family. Then,
Yeah.
after they got in there, they really didn't have resources. It was kind of like, we're going to all of these people in these areas, and we're not going to help them get better. But we're going to bring drugs and guns and all the other stuff in there. They're going to be our test tube babies because we're going to, anything we want to promote and do we're going to start right here. And we're going to do it here.
Right.
And you created all of this chaos. People got to lie about their husbands and fathers and stuff being in the home. When you take a man out of the home, that way in prison or other, killing them in the streets or whatever, you take a man out of a home, you break down the family. And so they done a lot of stuff. And so they created misery. When we were on our own in our own communities doing our own thing as a people, we were happier. But they
Right.
created this misery. And so we see it all the
Absolutely.
time. And so some people, when they come out of prison, I'll get back to that, they come out of prison, they don't have the resources to make it. And some of them go
You
back
have
to
60
the old
seconds remaining.
whatever. Not only going back to the old life, is sometimes the people that are still in that life gravitate to them and say, "Come on back," being doing crimes is bigger and better than it ever was. So it's a lot of ways to be miserable. It's a lot of things they put before us to keep misery going. And we don't look at it like that because a lot of times we're in the same community And we create ways to laugh and get through. But if we sit down and talk to each other, it's like, I'm struggling. You struggling? Yeah, we struggling. I got to work 2 jobs, or I can't